So I have this dream of creating a bunch of different dresses and corsets and costumes and just garments based on all the books that I love to read. I have been a huge fantasy reader since I was very young. This is the series that got me into reading when I was in grade 3, Song of the Lioness series by Tamora Pierce. If you have not read this, even if you're an adult, go and read this. I swear it's amazing. But this is not what this video is about. This video came from an idea of I was tired of not making the costumes that I've always wanted to make because I'm being held back by this intense fear of not being able to do it correctly or not knowing the questions to ask when making a costume. I do have a background in costuming. I have a theater degree from York University, but if I'm being very honest, I was middling to poor at drafting and sewing. In theater school, there is this thing where we're trying to learn so much in such a little amount of time. It is just go, 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 go in terms of learning. You're learning, your basic bodice. You do that, and if you make mistakes, it's like, oh, well, don't do that again next time. But there isn't really a next time because you have to move on to the next thing. And I loved my schooling. It was so invaluable, but it wasn't a fashion school. I didn't learn garment construction as in-depth as I would in fashion school. I learned how to be a good costume designer, the character developments, script breakdowns, the more intricacies behind the creative process behind costume design. But these days, I'm really, really interested in creating a whole host of costumes based on the books I read and then the fan art that I see online. I'm a huge Pinterest girly and I'm on TikTok a lot. So I see a lot of fan art and character art and a whole bunch of costumes based on all of these books, really. So I was really inspired to try and do a deep dive into the math behind garment construction. I thought that if I went in and truly learned the math behind these things, that I would be able to construct a garment, no questions asked. I felt like that was the answer. That was gonna be my way into making these costumes that I've always wanted to make. Now, a little bit of a spoiler alert, I did do a deep dive into some of the math, and I just realized that it's not really, I'm not asking the right question. Yes, there's a huge amount of math involved in making costumes, but it really is the basics, the multiplication, division, fractions, addition, subtraction. There are more complicated math theorems behind clothes. Do you need to understand them? Not necessarily. I did come across this one theorem called the Gauss-Bonnet theorem that did inform me a little bit and was helpful in helping me visualize some concepts behind costume construction. But at the end of the day, the math behind that is so advanced for me that it was not as helpful as I wanted it to be, even though it was. I did look into it. There was a lot of verbiage that in English made sense, but in math it was not computing. Like a disc is not a disc in math, the way we understand a disc. Because when I think of disc, I think of like a CD-ROM. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The concept behind the Gauss-Bonnet theory at the end of the day is just the math behind topography, which to me was very helpful in visualizing topography in relation to garment construction. Basically, it was sort of the math behind darts. And darts is something that we use in garment construction that helps redistribute curvature, basically. You're creating curves from a flat surface. So a bust dart is common, so if you have a bust, it's used to create shape there. Topography. It is just redistributing an excess amount of fabric to a different position so that we can create the curves we want. So at the end of the day, that was a helpful thing to learn. I know in theory I could bypass all of this by just finding patterns that I think fit my dream costume that I'm trying to make for a particular, character. I could just download that and construct that, and there's instructions there. But I have this innate need to understand concepts at their very core. I felt like if I want to be able to feel confident behind garment construction, I wanted to be able to understand the concepts behind it and really be able to problem solve and troubleshoot on my own. I want to be able to look at a flat pattern and understand how that all goes together in the 3D. I have this problem where I don't learn anything by just listening or reading. I'm very much a kinetic learner. So as I was going through these concepts, I really did just realize that it's not going to help me sitting here studying math. I will just, at the end of the day, have to do the thing. And that's the hardest thing, is just do the thing. After spending a little time researching and going through a few websites and clicking through a bunch of videos, watching some YouTubers that I enjoy, I did notice a repeat reference to pattern making for fashion design. That was a common book that was referenced in quite a few articles, and lo and behold, I actually have that textbook. So I thought, okay, as much as I thought this was going to be a deep dive video into mathematics, I'm realizing this has to be a bit more of a research study that's going to get me out of my fear mindset and into the actual doing of the sewing of the garments. So I started reading through that textbook. I also have still my Costume Technician's Handbook, which is the one that we used in university a lot. And this is an invaluable source for a lot of information on how to put together garments. So one of the main things that I came across when I was reading through the step-by-step to drafting your basic bodice block, there were certain points where it was just like, do your center front length, but then add 1/8 of an inch. And I'm very much a person, like, don't tell me to do it, explain to me why I'm doing it. So, quick Google search, it's for ease. Things where it was like, shoulder length plus 1/4 of an inch. There's an industry standard for ease between 1/8, 1/4, not quite 1/2, but that's so that a garment can move around your body a little more freely. It's not skin tight. But again, this is something I didn't know. And I feel like there's so many little questions that I don't know to ask. And those are the important things that I want to learn. But at the end of the day, as I was going through all of this, there are concepts that I am just gonna have to trip over as I go through all my projects. I just have to start doing. There will never be a point where any of us can look at every pattern or every piece of clothing and know how it fits together perfectly. You just have to do. I will always be figuring out new things, no matter how long I do this. So I will start at the beginning, as I seem to continuously do, draft up a basic bodice block, a basic skirt block, and go from there. I probably will incorporate some bot patterns and just start building up a compendium of things that will build up an arsenal so that I can make the most beautiful garments and have the most beautiful dresses and be every character in every book I've ever read and I've ever been inspired by. And that's the goal. Either way, I'm excited to have you here. If you're interested to see what I'm about to make, if you're interested to see the journey that I go through, please drop a subscribe. That would mean the world to me. I appreciate any and all support you guys give. And if you don't feel like subscribing, that's okay. Maybe fate will bring you back here through the algorithm, and I appreciate that as well. I'm excited to get started on everything, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.